Hey guys, Lee Godbold with Junk Removal Authority here on a Wednesday afternoon. You can check us out at junkra.com. Please subscribe to our videos below. Junk Removal Authority provides complete business packages, monthly websites, pay-per-job, AdWords management, SEO, and more. Check us out at junkra.com. What I want to talk to you today about is partnerships, business partnerships related both to junk removal as well as in general any business you might go into. So a lot of people have a fear of business partnerships. They're afraid to go into them. You know, especially people that follow like Dave Ramsey or something. Dave always says the only shit that doesn't sell is a partnership. I mean, that's something he says all the time. And if you look at the history of partnerships, it's really a bunch of baloney. Partnerships, some of the greatest companies that have ever been built were built on partnerships. Apple, founded by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Microsoft, Bill Gates and Paul Allen. Hewlett-Packard, Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard. Ford, the Ford Motor Company. There were several founders of the Ford Motor Company, but a little-known partner probably made Ford likely wouldn't have been in business without James Couzens, which was Henry Ford's right-hand man. Henry Ford had been in about three automobile partnerships beforehand, and the companies had either gone out or he'd been forced out. One of them before was Cadillac. Cadillac was originally founded by Henry Ford. It was a Ford design, and then he was forced out. Otherwise, the company would have gone bankrupt. Couzens kept Ford on track at times when because Henry was a big perfectionist. Henry would want to take a car, not ship a car as he improved on something, and James says, "Well, tell you what, no, we're going to ship this car, and you're going to make improvements while we're shipping it out. We've got to get income in order to support the changes on this car. Otherwise, we're going to go out of business." Couzens really kept Ford in business, and a good partner can do the same for you. And then Walmart, everybody thinks of Walmart being founded by Sam Walton. Bud Walton was Sam's brother. Bud was every bit as instrumental, or almost as instrumental in the success of Walmart as Sam was. Both of them working together, they were a great partnership. Those are, 5 or 6 awesome companies there, and there's a much larger list as well of successful companies that grew really large that probably would not have achieved that, or almost certainly wouldn't have achieved that level of success if it wasn't in a partnership. So the first rule is don't be afraid of them. Partnerships are a much more complicated beast than a sole proprietorship, but again, if done correctly, they have some extremely good positives. So, and then in junk removal, there are a couple great junk removal companies too. You've got college that are partnerships. You've got college hunks hauling junk, as well as Junk King. Both of those are partnerships, and that's number 2 and number 3. In terms of business, yearly junk removal revenues, College Hunks and Junk King are number 2 and number 3 behind Got Junk. Both of them are partnerships. So partnership fundamentals, by far and away, the most important thing that I can ever stress is never, ever, 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 under almost any circumstance, should you get in a 50-50 partnership. And by far and away, that's the most common partnership. Somebody goes out, you got 2 friends, they're going to start a junk removal company. They decide they're going to be partners. They're going to be 50-50 partnerships. Nobody wants to, they're going to put in the same amount of money up front. They're going to share the responsibility, share all the time. And at the start, everything goes great. But over time, when decisions have to be made, instead it's indecision. You have one side that owns 50% of the company that wants to go one direction. You have another side that owns 50% of the company that wants to go the other. Somebody has to be in charge. Don't do a 50-50 partnership. Ideally, somebody retains at least 51% ownership, though in some cases that's not going to happen. It's not going to be possible, but somebody, in terms of percentage of ownership, as well as voted as CEO, needs to be the decision maker, the final decision maker. All partners' input should be brought in on all major decisions, and then the decision maker ultimately needs to make a decision, and then the other partners need to fall in line in complete support of that decision if you ever want a partnership to work. So ideally, each side of the partnership is going to bring something to the table that the other one doesn't have. So For example, let's take Junk Removal Authority as an example. I've run an extremely successful junk removal business. And then my partner, Brett, has run a very, very, very successful software business. We came together to form Junk Removal Authority. Brett he controls most of the technical end. I know a lot about it, but as far as the website development end, he kind of oversees all of that. He has a great mind for strategy on some unique ways to present information and what direction the technology needs to go. And he's been managing developers for years. And managing developers is something else, and he understands the development, the coding, and all like that. I'm not really good on all that. So he brings something to the table that I don't have. I bring the knowledge of how to run a junk removal company. I'm pretty decent at sales. If I've got a great product, and we've got a great product with JRA, so I can sell the hell out of it. I'm not a salesperson that can go out and sell ice to an Eskimo. I'm not that, that isn't me. But if you give me a good product, I 100% believe in a good product or service. I 100% believe in, I can sell it. And then I've got just great vision. I've got the ability to see things nobody has ever done before. See there's demand for it. Take the steps needed to get there, and then I can take a lot of beatings. So I can take a lot of beat downs. I can take a lot of disappointments. I can go years without making any money. I don't do it for the money necessarily. I enjoy it. I will certainly spend it on nice things once it comes in. Be smart with it. I'll certainly invest it. But a lot of the attraction to me of money is just the business to actually accumulate it. Money is just like a scorecard. There's neat things you can do with it, that's for sure. But I'm not with somebody that got in business just to make a bunch of money. That wasn't really. It's important. I want to make a lot of it, but it's certainly not the only reason I get in business. And it's going to be tough for you to get in business and be super successful if your primary motivator is money. Because to get super successful, you've got to put it off for a while. So, one option you have with partnerships is called vesting. So the way vesting works is that over a period of time, a certain percentage of ownership is vested. So for example, if you've got a really good employee that's come on when you first started, or it could be a family member that came on when you first started, be careful of family members, but they've been working with you for a year, 6 months, a year, 2 years, doing great, always reliable, really a huge hand. You feel like you can go out of town and they're going to be able to run the business. If you've got somebody super, super reliable in there, you can vest some ownership over to them. Maybe it's 20% ownership. You're going to vest 20% ownership over them over 2 years. And it's going to vest yearly, it's going to vest monthly. So if it vested yearly, you would have, after the end of 1 year, he gets vested 10%. After the end of the second year, he gets the full 20%. So then he has 20% ownership in the business. And then if you invest monthly, you just do the math from there. So that is an option you have. That's a very good option. Vesting over ownership or providing ownership to a really, really important employee really helps drive their motivation to make sure they're doing an extremely good job, because they're being directly rewarded, financially rewarded, by higher sales and higher profits. So that is a great motivating factor, more so than just paying somebody a lot of money. If you can stick them right in there where they earn more money by making the company more money, then that's a great way to go. And profit sharing accomplishes a little bit of that, but they don't have the equity ownership. So when it comes time to sell, they don't have a cut of it. So it's extra motivating for the right person to get 15-20% ownership, something like that. And if something falls through, and you'd have to buy them out. So it's not, if it's a successful business, that's not the end of the world. And a lot of times that increased productivity you got out of that person was worth having to buy back that 20%. So vesting's great, though. You don't want to just give somebody 20% on the expectations they're going to follow through and do what they're supposed to do. Vest it over time if that's the type of agreement you are getting into. Certainly on partnerships, always hire an attorney. This isn't something you want to do on a handshake agreement. There's too many complications that can arise from a handshake agreement. If somebody gets to having health issues, they can no longer hold up their end of the bargain, they can't work anymore. what's going to happen with the partnership? What's going to happen at that point? If somebody decides they want to sell, what happens? I mean, can they go out and they sell to Joe Schmo down the street, or is there some process that's got to go through? Other shareholders have to have first rights to buy it. What's the process of selling shares? There are some great advantages to partnerships if done correctly. Number one, each partner can be a cheerleader. I've talked about this all the time. Business in general, junk removal, plumbing, this JRA, this type business, consulting, a web business, a development business, real estate. Any business you get in is going to have highs and lows, and those lows can be very, very tough to push through to the next level. A partner, if two of you are working together, can really drive you. And also it makes it harder for you to quit. You're gonna be a lot harder to quit because this other guy's really relying on you. And that right there can be worth going in partnership with somebody. If you need a little extra cheerleader or whatever, it can certainly be worth it. It can really help drive y'all through the difficult times, which you're always gonna be facing. It's easier to withstand losses. If you've got two people, that the income, if you're losing money, if they've got other money they can pull into it, or they have other income coming in they're able to live off of, it's easier for the business to withstand losses generally when you have a partnership. That means a lot of times you can actually be more aggressive on your growth when you have a partner if you aren't relying on having to have an income at the start, which can really accelerate and remove time from the success, from achieving success. It's that can be a major advantage of a partnership. Partners, you've got, like I said before, you're with that cheerleader thing. A lot of times you have more motivation, and most of the time, oftentimes anyway, two strong partners can get much farther than a single person. Not always, but most of the time that is the case. Disadvantages obviously can lead to a lot of arguments. You can be in an argument. You can't come to decisions. Especially in 50-50 partnerships. Decisions need to be made, but each side can't come to an agreement. That's a huge disadvantage. It dilutes your ownership percentage when it comes time to sell, or when you get dividends at the end of the year. That's pretty obvious. Always really consider what you're doing before you give away equity ownership, because you're giving away money. As soon as you do it, you're giving away money. The only time you should give away equity ownership is if you believe that the gain to your business is going to be greater than what you're giving away, and that otherwise you would not get to the point that you can get as a partner. You're not going to be able to get to that point. So, if you give up, owning a percentage of something great is better than owning all of something mediocre, and that's something you always got to remember with partnerships. Another disadvantage is both sides are always responsible for the losses of the business. So even if you don't agree with it, if your company takes out debt and your company and it's personally signed for, and you have greater than 20% ownership, you had to personally sign for it, then you're responsible for ultimately paying that debt. So, if it was signed for. So if the business goes out, the business assets have been liquidated, and you're 30% owner of the business, then you're going to be responsible for 30% of that debt, or greater. So that's definitely can be an issue with partnerships is going in debt. So the majority of our watchers have a junk hauling company, or they're looking to get in the junk removal business. So the question is it right for the hauling industry? Oftentimes, no. Oftentimes, for a hauling business, it's a simple enough business. It doesn't require a tremendous amount of money up front. So oftentimes, the answer to that is no. However, if you want to grow it big, if you want to franchise, if you want to have multiple locations, then in that case, the upside is high enough and the expense is high enough that it very well could be worth having a partner to help you push through that. And the complications get high. We own 3 different locations that are about 2 hours and 45 minutes, 3 hours apart. One from here to Greensboro is about an hour. From Greensboro to Charlotte's about an hour and a half. So they're about 2.5 to 3 hours apart. And that's complicated to run. It really is. I'm thankful that I've got a partner to help me out with that, because otherwise, it'd be tough to do everything that we do, both in junk removal as well as with JRA, without that partner. So to me, a partner is almost, my partner, Christian, is almost indispensable. We wouldn't be able to have accomplished what we've accomplished without him. JRA might never have started. I might be busy working, the junk removal company into things. It would be tough to find somebody and hire somebody that does everything he does without a percentage of ownership. And he's fairly well compensated, but between company truck, fuel, salary, and all, he's making big money. I mean, 6 digits. So he's doing well, but and he's worth every penny. There's no question at all about it. So for me, with 3 locations and with having started JRA and everything, it is 100% worth having a business partner. I've never regretted. I never would, regret that deal, and certainly glad to have a partner. But if you're planning on staying local, one location, you're not planning on getting into multiple services, you're not as ambitious as I am, then a lot of times you can just probably go out and do it on your own. But if by bringing on a partner, you can be a lot more aggressive, especially at the beginning, because you have less financial responsibilities, or if this guy's going to suck it up and not make money for a couple years, then I can. Or make much money for a couple years. I'm telling you, I'm telling everybody, if you can do aggressive SEO, you can do aggressive AdWords, with a good AdWords management campaign, you have a great website, and you do those 3 things, you're gonna, by year 3, you're gonna be set up to make some serious money. If you also couple that with training, like with a Jerry Business Package or a franchise, then you're really going to be able to kill it. Years 3, 4, 5. You're going to get to the point where you don't have to work all the time. You can take vacations. You can go to kids' soccer games. You can do whatever you want to do at that point. It's going to take you 3 years minimum, probably 5 years to get to complete freedom. It's going to take you 3 years minimum before you're making great money. It's a huge sacrifice. Some of you with kids, if you don't make a whole lot of money, you don't have a whole lot of savings, you've got a couple kids, it's going to be tough to do it the JRA way. And maybe you shouldn't go in business it yourself. If in that case, you should probably look at upping your income, saving money, and then being able to go after it. Junk removal is not something you want to dabble in. If by getting a partner that prevents you from dabbling, that allows you not to dabble, then a partner is probably a good deal for you. If you take all the information I've given you before, all the tips, all the principles that I've talked about before, and apply it to your junk removal business. Again, guys, partners are not required, but they can be a major advantage, and they might allow you to get to places you otherwise would not have gotten. 919-617-1975, junkra.com, junkra.com. I know y'all love watching videos, but we got some awesome articles on that site too about how to start, run, grow, expand, and just really have a great junk removal business. Talk to everybody before you know it. Thanks.